So welcome. I'm Claire Zawa. I'm the care manager here at Birthways, and I am very happy to be spending some time with you to talk a bit more about the baby blues. And we're going to spend some time looking at what exactly the baby blues are, why it happens, and how to best prepare for it if you're pregnant, or to navigate your way through it if you are currently in your early parenting time. Let's start by giving ourselves a common framework for what we mean by this term, the baby blues. So the baby blues specifically refers to the first 2 weeks following birth and the ups and downs that come during this time. It is incredibly common. Up to 80% of all new mothers will experience what we call the baby blues, and it is temporary. So for a particular new mom, this might be a few hours of feeling this way, a few days, or up to the first 2 weeks. It is most common for these symptoms to appear between day 2 and day 5, and that these symptoms recede or are completely gone by day 14. So again, we're talking about this first 2-week period. It is a time of great change. This is the steepest learning curve for every member of your family. I like to talk about how when a new baby is born, there is both the new baby and the new mom and the new co-parent, new partner parent. And this is filled with lots of learning for everyone. And so experiencing the baby blues is just a part of this time for new mothers and their families. It is not the only thing that is happening. And the baby blues is not the same as postpartum depression, anxiety, or other perinatal mood disorders. I will touch on those later in the presentation, but that is not the focus of this webinar. We are really focusing on just this first 2-week period and what these baby blues can be like. So now that we have a shared language around what we're talking about for the baby blues, let's take a closer look at what the baby blues look like. So what are these signs or symptoms that maybe a new mom is experiencing the baby blues? Now you'll see a lot of things here on the screen, and I want to let you know that you may experience one of these, two of these, a combination, all of them. It's going to look a little bit different for every new mom. But the common signs that the baby blues may be at play in these first 2 weeks are this weepiness or crying for no reason, or feelings of sadness or sudden mood swings. So within a matter of a few minutes, a mom may be laughing and happy and then crying, not necessarily because she's sad, or moving quickly between feeling tired or worried or happy or excited, right? These sudden changes that can happen quite quickly. There can also be feelings of impatience or irritability in this new mother. And this very often is directed towards a partner, this sense of hurry up or feeling irritated. And for partners, just keep in mind, it is most likely not personal. Certainly paying attention to what you are doing and how you are supporting your new mom and baby, but also know that this impatience, this irritability is quite normal during this period of time, as is a feeling of restlessness, feeling like you need to be doing things, you can't sit down, you want to be active and in motion. Often that sort of restlessness of the body can also be happening in the mind with lots of worrying thoughts or anxieties, usually focused around your new baby and what's happening for your baby or what you need to do for your new baby. There can also be great physical fatigue, often paired with feeling unable to fall asleep. So this push and pull of feeling so tired that a new mom just really wants to lay down and take a nap. But as she lays down, she's just not able to fall asleep. And that push and pull between these experiences is very common, as well as a general sort of ebbing in concentration. So feeling like it's really difficult to focus on really much of anything. If you're someone who was a big reader, you might find you like pick up a book in a quiet moment and you read the same sentence over and over and over again. Totally normal, really not anything to be worried about, but can feel really disconcerting when it's happening. So again, as a new mom in these first 2 weeks, you may feel a combination of any of these over the course of time. It can change day to day or moment to moment, but a big piece of the baby blues is that the intensity of these particular experiences, the intensity should be mild or moderate, and it should be temporary. If you are noticing that any of these symptoms are persistent or incredibly intense or feel disconcerting and troubling to you, that is when reaching out to a perinatal mental health expert is recommended. You may, as the new mom, notice these things happening for you, but it may also be that a partner is the one who's going to start taking notice of these things happening. So again, both for new moms and partners, having your eye out towards what this experience can be really implementable in figuring out what the next wise choice is. And we will get to many of those what to do's in just a moment. But first, I'd like to take a look at the whys. So why do the baby blues occur? Why is it so common? Why is this such a part of the new parent experience? And there's a couple key pieces. And again, it's going to be different for each mother and her own experience. So there's a lot of factors at play. But what we know for every new mom who has gone through the process of giving birth, this is a huge transformational change that has happened. Childbirth is a transformational event. You move through 9 months of pregnancy, of growing and sustaining this baby and this placenta in your body. And then within a matter of hours or a couple of days, suddenly you're not pregnant anymore, right? Your baby is born, the placenta is birthed, and this is biologically so fast, right? If we think just of 9 months in comparison to a day or two, this is really fast. And for this change to happen so quickly, it requires a tremendous amount of energy on the part of moms, both body and mind. And this is true whether this is for a vaginal birth, a cesarean birth, spontaneous labor, a scheduled induction. You literally have become a new version of yourself. You have transformed from being pregnant to now being a parent. And with this transformation, a whole other series of things are now happening, right? And part of this is the hormonal shift. So your body has this fine balance of hormones running through it at all times. And during pregnancy, 2 particular hormones, progesterone and estrogen, are maintained at high levels to support the developing fetus. Now, when you give birth and the placenta leaves your body, this sends the signal from your body to your brain, specifically the pituitary gland, that it's time to recalibrate. And those levels of progesterone and estrogen drop. This helps promote the shrinking back down of the uterus to pre-pregnancy size, and it also triggers the production of breast milk. And so this brings us to this whole piece of milk production is happening now in the postpartum body. And in these first 2 weeks in particular, there is a lot going on here. Even while you're still pregnant, as you move toward the end of your pregnancy, your body is producing colostrum. This is what is the complete nourishment for a new baby in these first few days of life. And the action of bringing the baby to the breast and sucking at the breast sends a signal to the brain that baby is now earthside, and it's time to transition from making colostrum to making what we think of as breast milk, mature milk. So it is, again, this amazing balance between what is happening just within mom's body, but also in relationship to what now is the sustenance and nourishment for the newborn baby. Typically, this transition from colostrum to mature milk happens between day 3 and day 5. So again, right, we're in this early time, significant changes are happening, and we'll talk a little bit more in just a few moments about the impacts of breastfeeding on mood. But for now, we're going to turn our attention to looking at these physical changes and the sense of recovery. So again, whatever your particular birth experience ends up looking like, your body's undergone this tremendous physical work, and it is going to need some time to recover and to heal. Your body is different. It's not going to go back to the way it was. It's going to take time, and I often say to new moms, if it took 9 months to grow your baby, give yourself at least 9 months to see what this new version of your body is both going to feel like and look like. With that being said, in these first few days after giving birth, you may be experiencing discomfort or pain in your body. You may be recovering from a perineal tear or a cesarean birth, or just full body exhaustion from the work that you have done. You may also be sensing some pain or discomfort as you are figuring out breastfeeding. Your ability to pay attention to these sensations in your body, this is going to be your best guide for how you need to support this physical aspect of the immediate postpartum time, and specifically in these first few days and in these first 2 weeks. So in addition to what's happening physically, there's also what's happening in the mind of a new mom. You may be rehashing or replaying aspects of your birth experience. You may have questions about why things went a certain way or didn't go another way. You may be experiencing all kinds of thoughts, as well as all kinds of emotions about what you've just been through. Again, this is a huge life-changing transformational event. This is what our minds do. Our minds love to kind of go back into the past and figure things out and think things through and come up with ideas and alternatives and have lots of feelings often with that. This ability to notice these thoughts and emotions as part of the entirety of your experience can be a really helpful tool in both being able to notice, oh, I'm feeling kind of blue today, but also then is a tool to work through this time. It is inevitable that as a newborn family, the grown-ups are going to have disruptions in what used to be your normal sleep patterns, your normal sleep cycles, the quality of your sleep, the amount of sleep you're getting is going to be changed by having a newborn baby in your life. And with sleep disruption often comes impacts on our moods, on our appetites, as well as on the intensity of physical discomforts we may be feeling in our body. So that's the really broad, like, hey, everything that's going on in your body and your mind that can be contributing factors towards the baby blues. But then we also have the reality of there's a newborn baby here. And this new baby is completely dependent on you for both nourishment and for comfort. A newborn baby's job is to eat and to sleep and to be cute. That's it. This is how biology has designed our babies to be, and they will eventually develop the brain capacity and the nervous system to move into self-soothing and self-regulation. But this is quite a ways down the way in these first 2 weeks of newborn babies. This is really about their own transition and transformation, right? They've moved from the womb, which is warm and tight and in motion and noisy, and now they are here, earthside. They are breathing air. There are all kinds of temperature changes and new sensations and new sounds and new sights. And it is very common in these first few days and first few weeks that a baby just wants to be held all the time. And so the reality of what this newborn baby's, a day in the life of a newborn baby is, may be different than what you were expecting it to be like. And that brings us to this other factor, which is our expectations. I think it's really important to acknowledge that when you are pregnant and preparing to become parents and are in these early days as parents, you may have a lot of ideas about how things are going to be, right? About how your birth is going to go, about what it's going to be like to be a new mom, to bring your baby home, what your baby is going to need, what your baby is going to do, how you're going to feel physically and emotionally about finally being in this place of parenting. And it's totally normal to have these ideas and do some futurizing. And it's important to recognize that expectations can be a source of disappointment or other intense emotions when things don't go exactly how we think they're going to go. And so again, when we look at these expectations that we hold, both for ourselves, but maybe also things that we're absorbing from what we think our culture is expecting of us as new parents. If we put that together with the realities of a newborn baby cycle, as well as all of the tremendous change that has happened in a new mom's body, these are all at play and can contribute to the baby blues. And knowing this, there is certainly a lot we can do to help pregnant moms and partners prepare for this time. So we know there's a lot of unknowables. We don't know exactly when your baby is going to be born, or who this baby is going to be, or how the birth is going to go, and we don't know all the details. But what we do know is, again, these first 2 weeks are the steepest learning curve for every new family with each baby. And so we can put some preparations into place. And I encourage pregnant couples to, wherever you are in your pregnancy, right, whether it's early on or getting close, to take some time and move through these different areas to see how you can set yourself up to make this transition as smooth as possible. And this starts by starting with your partner, your co-parent, who you are making this family with. So if you are a two-parent household, this means sitting down and having conversations while you're still pregnant about time off from work for both of you, logistics around the house, and what do you together envision these first couple weeks of bringing your baby home and moving into parenting to be like. If you are a single parent, then I would encourage you to identify one or two people who you can depend on during this early parenting time that you can talk with during your pregnancy about how they can be kind of your key supporters, which is this next area we're going to talk about. So when we look at supporters and celebrators, when we're looking at supporters, these are your friends, your family members who are your trusted team. These are the people who are going to bring you meals and be happy to wash the dishes and move a load of laundry. They're the people that you are going to feel comfortable being in your pajamas around. The people who you don't need to play host for. As you, during your pregnancy, start to get an idea of who those people are, you can talk with them about how you'd like to enlist them as part of your team, as part of your village, so that they are ready, right? They can prepare to be a part of your team. And then there's also identifying the people in your life who may be the celebrators, who want to come and admire your baby, maybe hold your baby, but they're not necessarily going to be able or up for contributing to taking care of you or your partner or your home. And these people are great, and it may be worth letting them know that you will be happy to see them a few weeks after baby is born. But it's often one of these first big steps as a parent is setting boundaries around when your friends and family get to come and be around you and your new baby. In addition to those friends and family, it's also during pregnancy thinking about the professional supports that you can put into place. So this certainly starts with your chosen healthcare provider, whether it's a doctor or a midwife, but it also expands to the supports that can meet you in your home. So this can be lactation consultants, who will be your pediatrician, identifying therapists in your area. And key to this postpartum time would be also looking into postpartum doulas. I encourage you to not only make a list of who these people are, but consider making appointments with them while you're still pregnant so you can establish that relationship. And I'll take a moment just to touch on postpartum doulas in a little bit more detail here. So postpartum doula is someone that is trained to support you in this time and is going to be familiar with the ups and downs of the baby blues, as well as moving into the later weeks and months, this whole first year postpartum. And a postpartum doula is going to have an eye on your baby, an eye on the new mom, on the partner, and on your home. This is about both skill and knowledge and experience, but that sense of compassion and holding you in this experience of being a mother. It's often referred to as mothering the mother. I think of it as being that net for the whole family and really holding all of you during this time. There are also ways while you're still pregnant to prepare your home. This can be stocking your pantry and your fridge and your freezer, and talking about whether you want to consider grocery or meal delivery services. If you've got pets, making plans while you're still pregnant for how their care is going to go. Ideally, it's not the new mom or the partner who's going to be dealing with these things for at least the first few days or first couple of weeks postpartum. Making a list of things around your home that people can do when they come to visit is going to be key, because people are going to show up and say, is there anything I can do? And instead of needing to, recall something in the moment, you can point to the fridge and say, there's a list of things there. That would be great if you would do something. Take your pick. Another way to prepare is to get clear on your intentions for feeding your baby. If your intention is to breastfeed, we encourage you to take a prenatal breastfeeding class, to find one book on breastfeeding that you like the tone of voice of, that you feel like you can read a little bit about these early days and weeks, and that they'll have as a reference and a resource as you continue to move through your breastfeeding relationship. It's also key to have the name of a lactation consultant. Put that on your fridge. So if the need arises for some breastfeeding support, you've got it already at your fingertips. And I'll also say a word about if your intention is not to breastfeed your baby, it would be very helpful during your pregnancy to again, talk with your healthcare provider or perhaps even a lactation consultant so that you can be prepared to support decreasing, diminishing, and not activating your milk supply. So that can be done with as little discomfort for you as possible. Having clear conversations about what your expectations are as new parents, how you want to move through this time, perhaps even spending some time with other people in your life who've recently had babies. It's a great way to just see that there's no one way to do this. There's so many different ways to approach it. So much is determined by you, your partner, and your baby. But to start those conversations about what you think this time is going to be like, so that you can then be prepared to throw all those ideas out the window once you find yourself there. Checking in with what your supports are in place for how you manage stress and change in your life as you're living it now. So if you're someone who relies on exercise and fitness to manage your stress, while you're pregnant, you're going to be needing to make modifications, and those modifications will continue in those first few weeks, perhaps a couple months postpartum. So start working with that now, paying attention to that now. A real benefit in this area is looking into mindfulness. Whether you are familiar with mindfulness or this is a new idea to you, we'll talk a little bit more about that as a tool. I'll talk a little bit about it right now. So with mindfulness, this is a life skill. This is about building the capacity to be with your moment by moment experience just as it is, which then allows the space to make wise decisions that are in alignment with what you're experiencing. Mindfulness is everywhere now, so if it's something you're curious about, I encourage you to look for teachers and providers who offer mindfulness-based approaches. This is the gold standard in terms of evidence-based practices that they can share with you. There's lots of ways to access it now, and I'll share a bit about how Birthways can be a support on that in just a moment. Another way to prepare is just to take this time to not think only about childbirth, but also parenting. There is so much attention in our culture on the birth experience itself, and very little time is paid to preparing to parent and really shoring yourself not only with information, but again, surrounding yourself with those experiential and very personal supports for not just birth, but also moving into parenting. So these are all really helpful tools of ways to prepare while you're pregnant, but what if you're watching this and listening to this and you are in it? Your baby is here and you're in these first 2 weeks and you're on this learning curve. So here are some things that I'd love to offer as ways to get back in touch with nourishing yourself, caring for yourself. This is the best way to be able to show up and take care of your baby. So first, you're going to want to be eating well. This means balanced nutrition, getting proteins, carbs, healthy fats, fresh fruits and vegetables, lots of omega-3s. You're going to want to avoid processed foods and sugars. Lots of support specifically around nutrition may be available through your healthcare provider, but it may be also something that you need to dig a little deeper into. If you're finding you have a lack of appetite, anything that sounds good is a good place to start. It's also really important to stay hydrated, not just water, but with electrolytes. You may find you need to avoid caffeine, and you should not consume alcohol or any non-prescription medications during your postpartum time. Rest and sleep. So it's a very common phrase for people to say, sleep when your baby sleeps. Well, that's great, and do it if you can, but if you can't fall asleep, at least put your feet up, get some rest. If you are feeling tired or need a break, hand your baby off to your partner or a trusted visitor. Take the breaks when you can. This, again, replenishes your supply to be able to show up and care for your baby. Moving your body. Now, when we're talking about the first 2 weeks postpartum, we are talking about gentle stretches or a walk around the block, but really working with your body as it is. Getting a walk around the block can be great because it also gets you outside, and sunshine and fresh air can do wonders for mood and appetite and sleep, not only for you as a new parent, but also for your baby. If you have people offering to help, let them. It is a gift to point them to that list on that fridge and have them do your dishes or a load of laundry. It is also the time to not only accept that support, but really lean into asking for help if you feel like you need it. If you are experiencing any pain or discomfort in your body, treat it. Don't ignore it. Don't feel like you have to suffer through. Again, talk with your doctor or midwife to get, whether it's medication or ice packs or hot pads, whatever it is, to help decrease that physical discomfort you may be having. And in general, slow yourself down. Babies aren't running on clock time. This is your chance to also shift into baby time. Do less than you may be used to doing. It won't be like this forever. It's going to keep changing. A postpartum doula is going to be great, again, specifically at helping you get all of this into your day or night, both moms and partners. And additionally, if you find yourself in these first 2 weeks and having a hard time, it is so important that you talk with someone you trust about how you're feeling. Don't keep these thoughts and feelings inside. It is important to share them. Often by letting these things out, they can move through and dissipate on their own. And treating yourself with as much kindness and care as you give to your baby. This can be hard for many of us, but if you can hold yourself in this time, knowing it's going to keep changing quite quickly for both you and your baby, and if you can bring that kindness and care, you may find that you notice the changes. So I'll take just a few minutes to say a couple words about what is not the baby blues. So if during these first 2 weeks following birth, if you have any of those symptoms, but they don't decrease in severity, or if they increase in intensity, this is not the baby blues. If you are avoiding your baby or having thoughts of harming your baby, not the baby blues. If any of these symptoms last beyond the first 2 weeks postpartum, or after you get through the first 2 weeks and you're fine, but at any point during the first year, you start to experience these symptoms, again, with intensity and persistency, we're not talking about the baby blues. We're talking about perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. Immediate treatment for mom and family is essential. Treatment will often entail talking with a therapist, group support. It may involve medication, but when we talk about these perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, we're talking about postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, postpartum OCD or obsessive compulsive disorder, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress and PTSD, and in very rare situations, perinatal psychosis. These are more severe than the baby blues. For new moms, the reported rates are around 20% of new moms will experience a perinatal mood and anxiety disorder. We know that this is likely an underreported number. The same is true for new partners. Partners as new parents will have similar symptoms at same rates, but are identified and treated at much lower rates. So, again, if you're in the first 2 weeks and it feels like the blues, it's going to pass on its own. If you're in the first 2 weeks or later on in your postpartum time and it's something more than that, the key is to, again, not keep these thoughts to yourself, but to reach out and connect. You are not alone. These are very common things. And whether it is the first 2 weeks or 2 months or a year later, if you or your partner are in need of immediate care, call 911, go to your nearest hospital, or call the suicide prevention line. If it is not feeling like an emergency situation, then here in Chicago, we have a number of great resources. Again, this Mom's Line is a great example of a resource that would be available for both experiencing the baby blues or perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. It's based out of Evanston Hospital. It's staffed 24/7, and they can connect you with other professionals in your area. Another great resource is Beyond the Baby Blues. This is specifically for pregnant and postpartum women who are struggling with the symptoms of perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. They're a fantastic nonprofit, and we love to encourage people to connect with them. And of course, there's us here at Birthways. We offer support for the entire family during the childbearing years, and specifically our postpartum doulas who offer daytime and overnight care have experience with supporting families going through the baby blues, as well as perinatal mood and anxiety disorder prevention and support. And if you're pregnant and you're interested in mindfulness and preparing not only for birth but for parenting, I'd encourage you to reach out and connect to learn more about our mindfulness-based childbirth and parenting class. I would be happy to talk with you more about it at any time. If you are outside Chicago, or even if you're in Chicago but want some additional supports, Postpartum Support International, Postpartum Dads, and Postpartum Depression Alliance of Illinois are wonderful resources. We will be sure to include these resources for you in our follow-up to this webinar. You can also give us a call at Birthways and we can connect you either with these groups or with other local resources in your neighborhood.